You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength of street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.
Damn, that shit was dope.
And welcome back to another Warrior Creed live stream with me, the Radical Majid Nawaz. The topic for today is on your screens now, and the topic is titled Reforms Nigel Farage Suspends Rupert Lowe MP After Failed Coup as Police Investigation is Launched. The breaking news is that the police have officially confirmed that they have launched an investigation into the former Reform Party MP, still remains an MP, but he's had the whip suspended from him, Rupert Lowe, who this week took the extraordinary move to challenge Nigel Farage's leadership in public, in the press, calling him messianic. And this came, the police investigation was not because of the criticism into Farage, but the police investigation was running concurrently. But all of this was then revealed around the same week as Rupert Lowe went to the press, no doubt being aware that the Reform Party leadership was initiating complaints against him. He decided to publicly challenge Farage's credibility and leadership. So here is that news reported in the Times for you, dated the 6th of March, 2025, headlined Nigel Farage's Messiah Act risks failing voters, says Reform MP. Rupert Lowe, subheading, a multi-millionaire businessman, said Farage needed to delegate and put a proper party structure in place. To read an extract from the article for you, which should be on your screens now, a Reform MP has accused Nigel Farage of acting like a messiah and warned that he could quit the party before the next election. Rupert Lowe, a multi-millionaire businessman who was elected MP for Great Yarmouth last year, said that Farage was a fiercely independent individual who needed to learn to delegate and put proper party structures in place. If this did not happen, he was not going to be by Nigel's side at the next election, as the party would be letting down its voters. So that was Rupert Lowe's attack in the press on Farage. It came before the announcement was made about the police investigation, but the complaints that were being conducted, the investigations that were being conducted internally against Rupert Lowe by Reform Party chairman's appointed investigator, a King's Counsel, a KC, a barrister, Sazia Youssef, appointed a barrister to investigate some allegations of bullying inside the Reform Party against Rupert Lowe. As that was ongoing, Rupert Lowe went to the press to attack the Reform Party leadership, his own leadership, comparing Nigel Farage, or complaining that Nigel Farage had a messiah complex. Farage eventually responded. That response is on your screens now. And you can see the headline, Reform has acted responsibly over Rupert Lowe. That's an article penned directly by Nigel Farage. To read an extract from that article for you, which should be on your screens about now. The Telegraph reports 8th of March, 2025. And this is Nigel Farage in his own words speaking about Rupert Lowe. He has also managed to fall out with all his parliamentary colleagues in one way or another. We did our best to keep a lid on things, but in the end, containment strategies invariably fail. Until we know more, I must return to the crucial job of getting 1,500 vetted Reform UK candidates out into the field for the local and mayoral elections on the 1st of May. It is essential that they stand for public office with a united team foursquare behind them. Now, that last part is important, because before we get to analysis as to exactly what's going on here with Rupert Lowe challenging Nigel Farage, the second such challenge to have occurred, this was, of course, after Ben Habib, Nigel Farage's colleague from his Brexit Party's days, also left Reform amidst similar noises and complaints about Nigel Farage's leadership. And we're going to break down for you in this Warrior Creed live stream exactly what's behind Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe's attacks on Farage, because all is not what it seems until, of course, you dig into it, and then it becomes pretty obvious. But before we do, it is important on that last point there mentioned in the last line there by Farage in his own article. I must return to the crucial job of getting 1,500 vetted Reform UK candidates out into the field for the local and mayoral elections on May the 1st. It's important to note that that's really what's going on here. People often forget we're in March now. We have half of March remaining, and then we have the month of April. On the 1st of May, in other words, after 1.5 months, there will be elections around this country, not the general election, so not parliamentary elections, but elections for each local council in each town and city across the country, mayoral and local elections. Now, these matter. Consider them, for our American viewers, something akin to the midterms. They matter because they are a reflection of the mood of the nation and help to build a momentum going forward into the general elections. Now, in these elections on May the 1st, if the Reform Party completely and entirely and totally obliterates the Conservative Party and becomes the party of the opposition, then the writing is pretty much on the wall for what's going to happen next in the general election with regards to the Conservative Party's parliamentary seats. So that's why it's an incredibly important time. And if you were to look at the polls, then what we just said there about the Reform Party obliterating the Conservatives in these upcoming May elections is, as what's on your screens now from the Times headline indicates, what looks set to appear to happen. The Times, dated 3rd of February, reports with a headline, Reform takes lead over Labour. For the first time, a poll shows support for Nigel Farage's party is growing and the Conservatives are falling even further behind. The polling data, to bring you right up to speed with that as of today, is that the Tories, the Conservative Party, are third, and Reform and the Labour Party, which is the party of government, are currently neck and neck with a margin of error of 1%. Labour has that 1% lead over Reform, and so it's effectively neck and neck due to the margin of error. And these May the 1st upcoming local and mayoral elections will be incredibly significant as a test case for these polls to demonstrate that indeed Reform have overtaken the Conservatives. They have actually become the party of opposition, and because of the polling, may well also be more popular than even the party of government, Labour, and could end up becoming not only the party of opposition, but the party of government within one election cycle. Now, that would be an incredibly fast, lightning speed ascension for the Reform Party, and credit for that would be down to the hard work of the leadership of Nigel Farage and the hard work of the party's chairman, newly instated chairman, Zia Youssef, having professionalized the party. That is the context in which their MP, one of five, Rupert Lowe, and his challenge to Nigel Farage must be viewed, because those who are opposed to Nigel Farage's success, and we must now consider Rupert Lowe's to be one of them, will be doing everything possible to sabotage what is currently effectively the inevitable success in advance that Reform are set to gain from these 1st of May upcoming elections. Rupert Lowe, having won an election himself, isn't a stupid man, understands how elections work, and understands that there's only a month and a half remaining until the 1st of May elections. And despite all of that, decided to go to the press and launch headlines such as this that you see on your screen. Nigel Farage's Messiah Act risks failing voters. And that's according to Rupert Lowe. So you've got a scenario where one of only 5 Reform Party MPs understands that headlines at this particular time are incredibly sensitive for the Reform Party, because these elections are going to be a test case as to whether Reform has indeed overtaken the Tories as the official party of opposition, but they may defy all expectations and even overtake Labour. But either way, it's an incredibly important test case for Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. And out pops Rupert Lowe to take, out of all the times that he could have said something, to take this opportunity with a month and a half remaining before the May the 1st elections, to take a pop at the leader and damage the party's prospects in these upcoming elections. Though actually, we don't think he's done too much damage, because this has been a failed coup attempt, and Rupert Lowe is going to be the one that comes off worse from this particular spat. So as we said, Farage responded in the Telegraph, and our own response when the scandal first erupted was as follows. This was so transparently obviously going to be Rupert Lowe's angle. Globalists are as desperate to stop Farage as they were to stop Trump. Don't forget, Elon Musk, and we're going to get to why he's relevant in a minute. Elon Musk was not a Trump supporter all the way up until the writing was 100% already on the wall about Trump's second term. Hey, Nigel Farage, Zia Yusuf, we've got your back, hold the line. Now, why we've mentioned Trump there and provided the analogy to what happened to Trump and how desperately globalists were to stop Trump is explained in the analysis, which is going to basically form the remainder of this stream for you all. And this analysis is numbered in bullet points, and we're going to go through it one by one. And then after we do, we're going to take each bullet point and provide for you the receipts of each assertion made, so that you can make up your own minds. So let's read through it, first of all, in one go, and then go point by point to provide you the receipts. Analysis on Reform UK strife. Point 1. Last January, Netanyahu's anti-Muslim network pushed all their globalist assets to insist on the Reform Party admitting stage name Tommy Robinson in. Point 2. Anti-Muslim fire starter, stage name Tommy Robinson, is funded by Likudnik Zionists. Point 3. Elon Musk, an originally anti-Trump latecomer to MAGA, who is also beholden to Netanyahu, even offered hundreds of millions in funding to Nigel Farage if he accepted stage name Tommy Robinson. Point 4. Farage refused stage name Robinson, and Musk began a process of trying to oust Farage to punish him for this refusal by publicly posting that he's not fit as leader and endorsing Rupert Lowe instead. So far, so clear. We're going to carry on reading for you, but don't worry, we're going to go back to each point and bring you receipts. Point 5. Rupert Lowe is too inexperienced to understand anything and has allowed globalist manipulators to play with his ego. Point 6. Netanyahu's Likudnik Zionist anti-Muslim network's main objection is that Reform has a Muslim chairman, Zia Yusuf, which they cannot tolerate. Point 7. This is why Rupert Lowe's other ousted former Reform member and main ally, Ben Habib, argued against me at an Oxford Union debate that Islam as a whole, in its entirety, not just extremism, not just the Islamists, but Islam as a whole, is incompatible with being British and has no place here. He, by the way, lost the motion. Point 8. This Reform spat is about the place of Muslims in Britain, because there is a nasty cabal doing everything they can to provoke a Muslim v non-Muslim civil conflict in the UK along the lines of the national riots that stage name Robinson provoked after the Southport massacre. We will not allow them to turn the Reform Party into the EDL, or the English Defence League. Go and join that dead end that is UKIP, if that's how you feel. So that's our analysis. And now we're going to go through it point by point to demonstrate why we've presented this analysis on these terms. So point one, last January, Netanyahu's anti-Muslim network pushed all their globalist assets to insist on the Reform Party UK admitting stage name Tommy Robinson. And we can go back to last January. You can see here from the BBC interviewing Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage on his relationship with Elon Musk after admitting they had a disagreement over Tommy Robinson. You will all remember this. We're just going to replay a clip for you here on that topic to refresh all of our memories. It was only 2 months ago. It was in January. You remember this whole spat that kicked off between Musk, Farage and Tommy Robinson. Well, here's Farage speaking about it back in January on the BBC.
He changes his mind. He said what he said. We had a disagreement. As you know, he wanted me to come out strongly in support of Tommy Robinson. My view was, whilst many things Robinson has said has been right, and it's wrong that he's in solitary confinement, I certainly don't want Tommy Robinson in my party. And so Elon wasn't very happy with me. But you know what? Since then, he's retweeted me several times. I don't think there's any long-term rift with Elon Musk at all.
Okay, so what did you say to him when you spoke to him this week?
Do you know what? We absolutely agree that we don't want to be at war with each other in any way at all, and we have very similar aims.
So is that an answer to the question, what did you say to him?
No, because I don't disclose private conversations, but let's put it like...
So that's just a little refresher. Everybody should remember what happened, and that Musk's intervention into British politics, insisting that Reform leader Nigel Farage admit stage name Robinson into Reform and begin campaigning for his release from prison. Stage name Robinson is currently held in prison on contempt of court charges. There are, of course, concerns around his well-being and treatment, concerns that we ourselves at Radical Media have expressed and have, in fact, publicly requested that all concerned parties ensure that stage name Robinson is dealt with fairly, receives due process, and is not harmed in any way while in custody, and his physical and mental health is cared for. He is, after all, a human being that deserves humanity and compassion. But nevertheless, on the political point, Farage rightly disagreed with Musk and Musk's allies and refused in January to let in Tommy Robinson. Now, that's point one. Point two, what is stage name Tommy Robinson? Well, the anti-Muslim fire starter stage name Tommy Robinson is funded by Likudnik Zionists. We're going to demonstrate that for you now. And first of all, we go to the Times, reported on the 9th of August, 2024, headlined, Tommy Robinson could face huge bill for unpaid tax. To the bulk of the article, and we read from the article for you, direct quote. Keep in mind, obviously, his name isn't actually Tommy Robinson. It's Stephen Yaxley Lennon. It's why we put it in quotation marks whenever we write it, or say stage name when we mention it verbally. But anyway, we're going to read from the Times here, 9th of August, 2024. Robinson's most loyal financial backers are said to include Robert Shillman, 78, an American tech billionaire who has supported Donald Trump. According to the Times of Israel, Shillman made headlines when he backed a contest in Texas for cartoons mocking the Prophet Muhammad. The tycoon sponsored Robinson as a Shillman Fellow from 2017 to 18, working for the Canada-based Rebel News Online, a right-wing website that hosts the British columnist Katie Hopkins. Rebel Media continued to support Robinson financially after his bankruptcy. To continue reading from the Times article, Robinson, who left the EDL, English Defence League, in 2013, by the way, isn't just providing you receipts. We've been intimately involved in this story. It was as director of Quilliam, the world's first counter-extremism organization, that we facilitated stage name Tommy Robinson's departure from the English Defence League. And you can look that up online for posterity. So we're very familiar with stage name Robinson Stephen, and with his views and his backers and his finances, including Ezra Levant from Rebel Media. Personally familiar with all of them. So take this not just from the receipts, but also from the personal experience that we have. Robinson, continuing from the Times now, 9th of August 2024, Robinson, who left the EDL in 2013, has long attracted supporters in North America, such as Pamela Geller, a hardline anti-Islam campaigner who has been banned from Britain. Geller previously told the Times that she had sent money to Robinson's family when he was behind bars. The Middle East Forum, a conservative think tank backed by Shulman, gave a 5-figure sum towards legal advice and rallies to try to help get Robinson freed when he was jailed in 2018 for broadcasting outside a jury trial. Bethan Nodwell, a Canadian anti-vaccine campaigner, invited Robinson on a speaking tour in June and said he told her that he was being offered £4,000 by an of Rebel Media, adding, "I can't say no, I'm skint. I need the money." So these are the various Likud matters of STEM Tommy Robinson. The names mentioned there are well known, known to us personally, but also well known in terms of news, are backers of Netanyahu's policies in Israel as well. The Guardian, it's not just the Times, The Guardian reports this similarly from an older article. The date there is 2018. And the headline in this Guardian article revealed the hidden global network behind Tommy Robinson. And just reading from the highlighted yellow part, a US tech billionaire, Robert Shulman, financed a fellowship that helped pay to be employed in 2017 by a right-wing Canadian media website, the Rebel Media, on a salary of about £5,000 a month. So there you go. That's the Times and the Guardian confirming the Likudnik Zionist backers of Tommy Robinson. But to continue, Mint Press News, the 9th of August 2024, headlined Tommy Robinson and the hidden forces behind the youth riots. And again, to read from that article, in June 2011, Robinson's compatriots launched a company, the English Defence League. A month later, this was updated to the English and Jewish Defence League. Meanwhile, a firm known as EDL, English Defence League Limited, was registered in December 2010. 2 years later, the company's name became the Jewish Defence League, and one of its directors, Roberta Moore, a belligerent Zionist, established links with Jewish Task Force, a far-right US organization. Founded by Victor Vancia, it espouses a hardcore fundamentalist Zionism. Despite raising money for illegal settlements in the West Bank and avowedly seeking to save, quote-unquote, save Israel, Vancia was banned from entering Tel Aviv for his involvement in 18 bombings in New York and Washington, protesting Soviet treatment of Jews during the 1980s. And here is the Companies House registration for the English Defence League, or the EDL, that stage name Tommy Robinson founded, with its original name. So you can see there on your screens now, here are the filings from the UK Companies House website, EDL, English Defence League Limited. You go down to previous company names at the bottom there, and dated 25th of July 2011 to 13th of June 2014, it was called the English and Jewish Defence League Limited. That's a direct screen grab from Companies House that we took ourselves. So we were going through our analysis, remember. We said, point one, Netanyahu's anti-Muslim network pushed all their globalist assets to insist on reform, admitting stage name Tommy Robinson in. Point two, the anti-Muslim fire starter Tommy Robinson is funded by Likudnik Zionists. We've established points one and two. Moving to point three. Elon Musk, an originally anti-Trump latecomer to MAGA, who is also beholden to Netanyahu, and we'll publish the receipts to that tangent there about how Musk is also beholden to Netanyahu in tomorrow's Radical Dispatch. But for the meanwhile, on the substance of point three, Elon Musk even offered hundreds of millions in funding to Nigel Farage if he accepted stage name Tommy Robinson. Now, you saw the Newsnight interview where Farage said that Musk was pressuring him to accept stage name Tommy Robinson into the EDL. But what you may not be aware of, as is reported by this Times headline here, 6th of January 2025, Nigel Farage will sacrifice Elon Musk's donation to keep out Tommy Robinson. Subheading, Reform UK leader says he will defend his party's principles and wants no links with extremism of any kind. So Farage turned down millions from Musk because he refused to accept stage name Robinson into the Reform Party. Reading from that Times article, again dated the 6th of Jan 2025, Nigel Farage has said he was prepared to sacrifice any donations from Elon Musk in order to defend Reform UK's principles over who is admitted to the party. The Reform leader said he had been surprised when Musk claimed on Sunday that he doesn't have what it takes to be the party chief. Musk, who has allegedly been considering a large sum to the party, did not explain the reasoning behind his intervention. But Farage, the MP for Clacton, suggested it was because of his refusal to endorse the far-right figurehead, stage name Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon. To continue reading from that article, dated 6th of Jan from the Times, Farage said on Monday, "I'm not giving up principles. I do not allow former BNP, British National Party activists into this party. That's a golden rule. We want no links with extremism of any kind at all. It's not going to happen under my leadership. I'm sorry, but Mr. Robinson is not suitable for our party. He's not somebody that we're going to endorse. And if defending that principle means that I have to forego donations or whatever else it may be, well, I'm truly sorry. But for me, principle comes first." He added that if Musk knew the full story of Tommy Robinson, he might have a slightly different view. He said Robinson, who has been jailed for contempt of court, puts himself up for martyrdom. And on the back of it, there's a list as long as your arm of convictions. Frankly, we have to have the rule of law, Farage said. He's not a hero figure to me, he added. All over America, there are prominent Republicans who think Tommy Robinson is a hero because they've heard Tommy Robinson's side of the story. There is a lot more to it that many Americans don't understand. So that was the Times reporting on how, as a result of Farage refusing Musk's demand that he accept stage name Robinson into the Reform Party, Farage lost millions in potential donations from Elon Musk. Again, the Times confirms from the 5th of Jan 2025 what happened next. In fact, before we read that headline, we'll read the next bullet point because that's relevant to the next bullet point in the analysis. So, point 4. After Farage refused stage name Robinson, Musk began a process of trying to oust Farage to punish him for this refusal by publicly posting that he's not fit as leader and endorsing Rupert Lowe instead. And this point 4, brings us up to date with the current scandal. This is the context in which Rupert Lowe has challenged Nigel Farage. He's had smoke blown up his backside by the world's richest published billionaire frontman and Netanyahu asset, Elon Musk. And as a result of having that smoke blown up his backside, thinks he's got what it takes to be leader. And in that regards, saying that Musk then threw or tried to throw Farage under the bus and endorsed Rupert Lowe instead. Here is the headline for that from dated the 5th of Jan 2025 in the Times. Elon Musk calls for Nigel Farage to be replaced as Reform leader. Subheading, the ex-owner says that the MP doesn't have what it takes after he claimed Tommy Robinson would not be right for his party. To read an extract from that article for you, 5th of Jan from the Times, Elon Musk has said that Nigel Farage should be replaced as the leader of Reform UK because he does not have what it takes in a dramatic collapse of their relationship. Musk suggested that Rupert Lowe, the Reform MP for Great Yarmouth, could succeed Farage. I have not met Rupert Lowe, but his statements online that I've read so far make a lot of sense, he said. So there you have it. Musk entirely and completely backing Rupert Lowe and in an attempt to oust Nigel Farage. Because why? Because Farage refused to accept the anti-Muslim paid asset and agitator and traitor to Britain, the fire starter who provoked national riots in the UK over false allegations in which hotels were torched with human beings inside them, in which a mosque, a lynch mob attempted to lynch a mosque in Southport, falsely blaming Muslims for the Southport child massacre, conducted by Rwandan origin British citizen Axel Rudakabana. Again, the Times reports on the Musk-Rupert Lowe connection, dated 9th of March 2025. This one is only from 2 days ago. Rupert Lowe, headlined Rupert Lowe Reform and the Civil War, he says, will tear it down. And to read from that article at the bottom, in January, Elon Musk backed him, Rupert Lowe, to take over Reform after a spat with Farage over his refusal to defend the far-right convict stage name Tommy Robinson. So far, we've shown you receipts in our analysis, bolstering points 1 to 4 here. Point 1, that Netanyahu's anti-Muslim network were pushing their globalist assets to insist that the Reform Party admit Tommy Robinson. Point 2, that Robinson himself is funded by Likudnik Zionists. Point 3, that Musk even offered hundreds of millions in funding to Farage if he accepted stage name Robinson. And point 4, because Farage refused stage name Robinson, Musk began the process of trying to oust Farage and punish him for this refusal by publicly supporting Rupert Lowe for the leadership instead. We've substantiated those points in our analysis. We're going to move to point 5. Rupert Lowe is too inexperienced to understand any of this and has allowed globalists to manipulate, or globalist manipulators to play with his ego. Now, obviously that much is a matter of opinion, that he's too inexperienced and he's allowed people to manipulate him and play with his ego. That's our opinion. But what we're going to demonstrate by way of a receipt here to show you is that perhaps even Rupert Lowe believes he's too inexperienced, because here he is specifically saying that he's an amateur politically. I'm going to read from his post for you. Maybe I am an amateur at politics, he says. Having seen how it works from the inside, I now wear that as a badge of immense pride. I did not know that these people had it in them. I honestly did not think it was possible to stoop to these wicked levels. I thought football was a dirty game. Politics is something else entirely. Normally in life, the bullets come from the enemy. I fought alongside these people for years, campaigned with them, celebrated with them, laughed with them. Yet there were issues. Yes, there were issues, as there are in any family, but I genuinely believed that we were a team. So that's Rupert Lowe there, confessing that he's an amateur at politics, saying he wants to wear it as a badge of pride, and also, interestingly, playing the victim after he initiated a public spat by criticizing his own party leader, who, by the way, to whom he owes a debt of gratitude for having won his seat in Great Yarmouth, decides to call him a messiah and criticizes him in public and then plays victim. And so as to point 5, that Rupert Lowe is too inexperienced to understand anything and has allowed globalist manipulators to play with his ego, we put it to you that Rupert Lowe himself has said that he wears this idea that he's a political amateur as a badge of pride. So we believe that point there is pretty self-explanatory. Moving to point 6. Netanyahu's Likudnik Zionist anti-Muslim network's main objection is that Reform has a Muslim chairman, Zia Yusuf, which they cannot tolerate. And in that regard, have a look at what Rupert Lowe himself has said about Zia Yusuf. You can see the date on his post, 8th of March. Nigel Farage needs to take back control of Reform and sack Zia Yusuf. Lowe has taken issue directly with Zia Yusuf. As the Times reports, dated 9th of March 2025, on your screens now, several sources believe Yusuf is ultimately the problem, pointing to the purge of long-serving staff in party headquarters as part of his professionalization drive and his highly defensive approach to dealing with media and internal criticism. This view is shared by Habib. That's Ben Habib, by the way, one of the main backers of Rupert Lowe, also a defector from the Reform Party. This view is shared by Habib. Remember that name, Ben Habib, because we're going to come back to him momentarily. Ben Habib said, according to the Times, I personally don't think there's any future for Rupert and Reform. He said Nigel would have to embrace Rupert and his criticisms and address them, and he would have to sack Zia Yusuf. So Ben Habib there also making the problem one of Zia Yusuf. To go back to the analysis and the points we mentioned, that was point 6, that they have a problem with Zia Yusuf. Point 7, This is why Rupert Lowe's other ousted former Reform member and main ally, Ben Habib, argued against me at an Oxford Union debate that Islam as a whole, meaning the entire religion of Islam, not just the extremist factions or the Islamists, not just the jihadists, but Islam as a whole, Ben Habib argued at Oxford, is incompatible with being British and has no place here. He, by the way, lost the motion. But for those of you who are interested, on your screens now are details of the debate. It was a Oxford Union debate with the Malaysian Muslim minister, Mazli Malik, and Bosnian Serb Muslim minister, Usama Zukurlik, and myself, arguing that Islam in its essence is not incompatible with modernity and British democracy. And Dr. Zuhdi Jasser from the US and Ben Habib took the opposing view. And in Ben Habib's debate specifically, he attempted to change the wording of the motion to make a point. He believed Islam had no place in Britain. That was literally Ben Habib's argument. Islam as a whole, in its entirety, has no place in Britain. We will post all of these receipts in tomorrow's Radical Dispatch, as always, and we will repost that Oxford debate for you so you can see it for yourselves. But effectively, that's what it looked like. That is an image from the debate arguing the motion that we won, that Islam does have a place in Britain. So back to the analysis, that was point 7. This is why Rupert Lowe's other ousted former Reform member and main ally, Ben Habib, argued against me at an Oxford Union debate that Islam as a whole is incompatible with being British and has no place here. He lost the motion. That's why they have a problem with the British Muslim chairman of the Reform Party, Zia Yusuf, the former Goldman Sachs banker. They have a problem with him because they do not want a Muslim as chairman of the Reform Party. They cannot tolerate a Muslim in that position because they cannot, by their own words and their own admission, because they cannot tolerate Islam in Britain. It is as simple and as straightforward as that. They believe Islam, not extremism, not Islamist extremism, not jihadist terrorism. They believe Islam has no place in Britain. And that is why they object to Zia Yusuf being the chair of the Reform Party. Moving to point 8. And therefore, it's our view that this reform spat, as we say in point 8, this reform spat is about the place of Muslims in Britain because there is a nasty cabal doing everything they can to provoke a Muslim v non-Muslim civil conflict in the UK along the lines of the national riots that stage name Robinson provoked after the Southport massacre. We will not allow them to turn the Reform Party into the English Defence League. Go and join the dead end that is UKIP, if that's how you feel. So that's the analysis that we've presented there. And that what we just read to you there was from point 8. And we believe this is very much about their disdain for any presence of Muslims in this great country known as the United Kingdom. And here is Rupert Lowe making it very clear that he's even got an issue with halal meat. Dated the 7th of March, Rupert Lowe says, a halal slaughter is a horrifically cruel and painful way for an animal to die. That brutal suffering is simply not justified. Animal welfare must overrule halal slaughter. In my view, as a farmer, animals must be slaughtered as humanely as possible without unnecessary pain. Notice he doesn't mention anything to do with kosher meat there. And secondly, Rupert would know that overwhelmingly, almost all halal meat that is sourced in Britain, that you're able to purchase in Britain, has been pre-stunned. It is stunned and then slaughtered. The animals are stunned first. He would know that, but there is a specific campaign to ban not just halal meat in Britain by these types. They have explicitly said they believe, many of them have, not necessarily Rupert, they believe in banning mosques, preventing the construction of any new mosques. They have taken serious umbrage with the presence of normative, everyday, ordinary Muslims in Britain. And Farage, of course, isn't having any of that. And to demonstrate Farage having previously stated why he's not having any of that, we're going to remind you, Farage takes a very different view to people like Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib on the topic of Islam. Here is Farage on Winston Marshall's podcast addressing this very point.
But the nub of it is, we have a Muslim population in Britain growing by about 75% every 10 years. Right? That's just where we are. Mm-hmm. If we politically alienate the whole of Islam, we will lose. We'll lose.
So how does one include
We
them?
will lose. By 2050, goodness knows what kind of a terrible state we're going to be in. Mm-hmm. But the nub of it is, we have a Muslim population in Britain growing.
So Farage making it very clear he has absolutely no intention of going head-to-head against Islam as a whole, Islam as a faith in the UK. Ben Habib, the former Reform colleague of Farage's, took the opposite view in the debate against me at Oxford Union, believed Islam as a whole, in essence, has no place in Britain. That's the ally that Rupert Lowe has, Ben Habib. That's the direction of travel for Rupert Lowe, backed by Elon Musk. They are collectively, all of them, Musk, Rupert Lowe, and Ben Habib. They chose to punish Farage, are seeking to oust him as leader for his refusal to accept stage name Tommy Robinson into the Reform Party, which would thereby transform Reform, effectively making it the EDL, and end all chances of prospects of a Reform general election victory, would end the political career of Nigel Farage, and of course globalists would win. Now, Farage is correct there, by the way, when he says that you cannot win elections by taking that approach. And we've published this before. We're going to show you again. Oh, don't worry, we'll republish all these receipts tomorrow for you. But on your screens right now is some data from the last election. And you can see there by Ed Hodgson, it says all of the biggest swings against Labour last night happened in seats with the biggest Muslim populations. And you can see the graph there, how the Labour vote changed since 2019 by constituencies' Muslim population. The biggest swings happened in seats with the biggest populations. The biggest swings against Labour. Now, Labour is in government. What that data shows you is that the fastest route for Labour hemorrhaging votes, and that's if you want to unseat a Labour government, you need them to hemorrhage votes. The fastest route to Labour hemorrhaging votes is to take those Muslim voters from the Labour Party, which is exactly what this data tells you. Again, all the biggest swings against Labour last night happened in seats with the biggest Muslim population. If you can deprive Labour of those Muslim votes, they do not win those seats. Now, this is something that Donald Trump understood in the US with the Democrats, and it's something that Farage has understood in the UK. When I was on Winston Marshall's podcast, I made this very point and said that Farage, if he's clever, will understand that among those in the marginal seats, you're going to have some floating voters who are Muslim. Those floating voters are up for grabs. They may well, could be persuaded to vote Reform. In those safe Labour seats, then what you can at least expect is for Labour to lose those safe Labour seats where there's a heavy Muslim population. The Muslims who are abandoning Labour will start voting for independent voters. So take NHS, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, Labour MP for Ilford, as a case in point. That's a safe Labour seat, Ilford. Reform doesn't have a chance of winning Ilford, but who does? Well, Labour MP and now Secretary of State for Health, Wes Streeting, won by only 500 votes. By only 500 votes. Let me assure you all that in a general election, winning by 500 votes is winning by the skin of your teeth. Who got second place and came within 500 votes of Labour MP and now Secretary of State for Health, Wes Streeting? None other than an independent candidate who didn't even have a party machinery behind her, the Palestinian Liana Mohammed. So, Farage understands something, as this data indicates. The biggest swings against Labour across the country happened in seats with the biggest Muslim populations. Labour is either going to lose because they hemorrhage Muslim votes to independent candidates where they have safe seats, or where there are marginals and they are floating voters, they will lose to what would have been the Conservative Party, but now will become the Reform Party because they've overtaken the Conservatives, if Reform can attract those floating Muslim voters. And we put it to you, this is exactly why Rupert Lowe, Ben Habib and the others are attacking Farage and attempting him to force him to go to war against British Muslims, because they don't want him to become the Prime Minister. They want him to suffer in these May elections so that he can lose, so that they can oust him as a failure and install one of their own in his place, serving the interests of their globalist backers, whether they know it or not. And this is something, again, that Donald Trump understood when it came to Muslim voters. And here again is Farage on that Winston Marshall podcast saying as much.
Growing black voters, even some imams.
Well, he won the Muslim vote. He didn't win the Jewish vote, but he won the majority of Muslims.
Because he believes in family values and
So that was Farage and Winston Marshall, both acknowledging that Trump won the Muslim vote. In fact, it was in the key swing state of Michigan, and Trump came out afterwards thanking the Muslims of Michigan for their support in winning that key swing state for him. And those swing states in America are what determine the election. So effectively, Michigan Muslim voters, big up to Michigan Muslim voters, your vote is what swung the election in favor of Trump and MAGA in the US. And Trump has acknowledged as much himself. He also thanked Black and Latino voters. This is a phenomenon that Farage has understood is coming around here in the UK as well. And it's something that his detractors are attempting to damage him on, goading him into being more and more anti-Muslim, when really the other way around is what's going to catapult Reform into leadership and make Farage PM. Now, Rupert Lowe, as well as being flirting with the anti-Muslim sentiment, has also called for mass deportations, not a moratorium on migration, which is our position, Farage's position, that we have to have a moratorium on all migration, legal and illegal, until we get a handle on exactly what's going on. That message was in Farage's Christmas message. We've said it many times here on the Warrior Creed live stream. There's absolutely nothing wrong. There's nothing racist. There's nothing xenophobic for any country to suspend its migration policy and review it. And that's Farage's view. That's our view. There needs to be a moratorium on legal and illegal migration. That isn't Elon Musk's view, by the way. The same Elon Musk backing stage name Tommy Robinson to go after Muslim migrants and Muslims in general across Europe. That same Elon Musk wants to expand the H-1B visa program from India. And so there's a big fat contradiction there for you. Farage, correctly so, and we agree with him, stands for a moratorium on all migration, legal or illegal. But Rupert Lowe wants to do something politically impossible. Rupert Lowe says, yes, I want to deport huge numbers of illegal migrants. I make no apologies for that. But he's talking about rounding people up who are already here from across the country, hundreds of thousands of them by his own admission, hundreds of thousands of them. And Rupert Lowe says that he wants to deport every single one of them. Now, the problem there is, as we've tried to make clear in our response to Rupert Lowe's post, you will not commence mass internment and concentration camps for hundreds of thousands of human beings. You shall not pass. We are not joking. Now, why is it a necessary corollary that by saying you want to round up everybody undocumented in the country who is here already in totality and then just remove them from the country, why is it necessary that that policy view means that you believe in internment and concentration camps? Well, unfortunately, there is absolutely no way to mass deport hundreds of thousands of human beings who are already inside the country without interning them first. Once you arrest them, you have to put them somewhere while they're waiting for the paperwork and for their deportation flights and any potential appeal procedures. Because, of course, you have to make sure you've arrested who are genuinely here without documents. So that means holding them somewhere. The minute you round up hundreds of thousands of people and hold them somewhere, that's called internment. The minute you hold them somewhere for extended periods of time, they're camps. There's no way around that. Why do you think that Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, and the old Tory government was seeking to set up camps in Rwanda? That old failed scheme. Do you remember that? Seeking to set up camps for migrants that they wanted to stop at the border and ship off to Rwanda. It was a gimmick, but they were adamant on it because even they recognize that you can't do this pipe dream of deporting hundreds of thousands of people without setting up camps. And there you have it. You'll end up with internment camps into which children and babies will be born. That does something to our nation's moral conscience that is irreversible. And that is, it begins to normalize the idea that you can hold hundreds of thousands of human beings indefinitely in these camps into which children are born, and you end up with a two-tier society. Once you normalize rounding people up for deportation from off your streets and putting them into camps, you're not very far from the kind of fascism that we fought Europe for over in World War II. So with Rupert Lowe taking Nigel Farage's sensible policy of a moratorium on all migration, legal and illegal, and instead turning it into, and that's a positive policy, turning it into a negative, which is a mass roundup and a mass deportation of everyone that's already here, you cannot do that without setting up camps. And setting up camps poses very, very serious legal and human rights challenges. We've already got camps that we're responsible for in Kurdish-controlled regions of Syria, such as Camp al-Hawl, into which we put all the ISIS fighters after the war wound up there. Those camps with tens of thousands of people in them have now children been born whose entire lives, and they'll be reaching their teenage years now, their entire lives have been born in captivity. That is a state of affairs that we cannot allow for this country to fall into. And that is to have the collective responsibility and the moral weight of throwing hundreds of thousands of people into camps, families, wives, children, and allowing them to live their lives out in these camps with children born in these camps in the name of our own righteous policy positions. But that's Rupert Lowe's position. And there's no way of getting around this idea that if you're going to mass deport hundreds of thousands of people, you're going to need camps. And Farage has made it very clear that that's something that is not tolerable for him as well. Take a look at this.
Political impossibility to deport hundreds of thousands of people. We simply can't do it. At the moment, it's a political impossibility.
But is it your ambition?
No. You know, I'm not going to get dragged down the route of mass deportations or anything like that. You know, I mean, people are always going to come and go, and we are a country that's engaged in international trade, and we have relationships around the world through the Commonwealth, etc. But yeah, we have to aim at a balanced migration policy.
But net zero still means hundreds of thousands of people coming into Britain, immigrants coming into Britain. Isn't that too many?
It may well be, but we have to start somewhere.
Trump says in America that he wants mass deportations. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants are in Britain at the moment. Some estimates say the number could even be in, 1 million plus. So do you support deporting all of those people?
It's impossible to do. Literally impossible to do.
In terms of the atmosphere in Britain, are you concerned that there is a rising level of anti-white hatred?
I'm concerned.
And when Farage is saying it's impossible to do, he's right, it's impossible to do, but it's possible if you turn into Nazi Germany, which obviously Farage isn't going to allow to happen. We will not allow that to happen. None of you will allow that to happen. But if you were to take the policies as suggested by Rupert Lowe seriously, there's no other way around it. You cannot round up hundreds of thousands of human beings who are already in your country without setting up concentration camps. He said there in the clip, you heard him yourself, Some people think there's 1 million undocumented migrants in. That's 1 million people you're going to hold in internment camps. For how long while you process them? What about their children and their wives? The children that were born here, where do you send them? Some of them will be stateless. Where do you send them? It's an absurdity. And Farage is right to call all of this out and to stand on his principles. And Rupert Lowe, it's the end of the game. It's the end of the line for him, unfortunately, because of course now what Reform have announced, as is in the Times of 9th of March, they've announced on Friday the party's high command, reading from the Times, took the gloves off, issuing a statement revealing it had appointed a KC, a King's Counsel barrister, to investigate Rupert Lowe over allegations of serious bullying against 2 female staff, which have also been reported to the Common Standards Watchdog. Reform went to the police on Thursday, the same day Lowe's comments were published by the Mail, those comments calling Farage a messiah. Despite the alleged exchanges with Yusuf having taken place in December, he's also had the whip suspended. That's from the 9th of March, but the breaking news today, as reported by GB News, is the police have now formally opened an investigation into Rupert Lowe. You can see that on your screens. Breaking, the Metropolitan Police has launched an investigation into suspended Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe over allegations he made verbal threats against the Populist Party's chairman, Muslim chairman, that is, Zia Yusuf. And here is GB News reporting on that.
Last few minutes, the Metropolitan Police have announced that it's launched an investigation into allegations of an attack and threats, I should say, a series of verbal threats allegedly made by suspended Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe.
Now, the MP for Great Yarmouth has been accused of making threats of physical violence towards the party's chairman, Zia Yusuf, allegations he strongly denies.
Well, here to tell us more is GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, this is a row that is really erupting in Westminster. And the idea that Reform have reported Rupert Lowe to the police for verbal threats seemed incredible, yet it does seem that this is now progressing.
Yes, indeed. So I'll just read out the statement. The Metropolitan Police have now launched an investigation into an allegation of a series of verbal threats made by a 67-year-old man. We assume that to be Rupert Lowe. Our original statement referred to alleged threats made in December 2024. We would like to clarify that when this matter was reported to us, it referred to a series of alleged threats made between December 2024 and February 2025. Further inquiries are ongoing at this stage. So cast your mind back to Friday afternoon when this whole thing exploded. First of all, with the allegations of bullying made by 2 women in Rupert Lowe's office, quickly followed by the news that Reform had gone to the police with allegations of verbal threats that Rupert Lowe allegedly made to Zia Yusuf, the party chairman. Now, the whip was swiftly withdrawn from Rupert Lowe, and since then there has been this almighty war of words between Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage, and all the remaining Reform MPs. Bear in mind there were 5, there's only 4 of them left. And last night, Rupert Lowe gave an online interview in which he described himself as a poppy that stood up too tall and has been chopped down. Bear in mind, of course, that all this came to a head the day after Rupert Lowe had spoken to our own Andrew Pearce and been a bit critical of Nigel Farage, Reform leader, describing him as not the messiah and not convinced that he was the right person to lead them. And I think Rupert Lowe will certainly believe that he has had a target on his back ever since back in January, when Elon Musk was thinking about donating money to Reform. At some point, Elon Musk decided that Nigel Farage was not the man for the job, said so on X. Nigel Farage isn't up to it, he said, and then later said, oh, this guy Rupert Lowe, he looks like he might be good.
And that was shortly after the interview with Nigel, actually, on my show that then went viral, and Elon Musk.
So there you have it. A formal police investigation has been launched against Rupert Lowe. It is pretty much over for Rupert Lowe. He's politically, he's not going to succeed. This is a failed coup. There's rumor of him and Ben Habib setting up their own party. Good luck to them. Let them take votes from UKIP. It's over politically. The man has dug his own grave. Rupert Lowe has put out a statement after news that broke today that the police have formally launched an investigation into him. I've instructed lawyers to represent me in this matter. My lawyers have made contact with the Met Police and have made them aware of my willingness to cooperate in any necessary investigation. My lawyers have not yet received any contact from the police. It is highly unusual for the police to disclose anything to the media at this stage of an investigation. I remain unaware of the specific allegations, but in any event, I deny any wrongdoing. The allegations are entirely untrue. Goodbye, Rupert. It's over for you. Now, Raheem Kassam in the Times is quoted from the 9th of March, making it very clear that this isn't something new. To read from the article, allies point out that he has had plenty of experience in dealing with insurrections and leading them. In 1997, this is Farage it's talking about, he ousted the UKIP founder, Alan Sked, and later took over the party. In 2004, he saw off a coup by the former Labour MP and TV presenter Robert Kilroy Silk. Dissenters such as Douglas Carswell and Suzanne Evans were squashed in later years. As Raheem Kassam, a former chief advisor to Farage, notes, every few years someone comes along and tries to wrest control of a party and its functions from Nigel Farage, who does 75% plus of the legwork and fundraising to keep these entities going. Those people never prosper. And Kassam is right. They don't prosper. Rupert Lowe will not prosper. Ben Habib will not prosper in this endeavor. Good luck to them. Ben Habib's a good businessman. Maybe he should go back to business. Rupert Lowe, go back to farming. Your political days are over. Set up a new party if you like. You probably lose your deposit. Perhaps join UKIP, but that's a dead end too, which we suspect you know, which is why there's rumors you're going to set up your own party. Either way, it's over for you. There's no coming back from this. Nigel Farage will become the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and the Reform Party's performance in this May's elections will outdo expectations, and Zia Yusuf will get the deserved credit as chairman of the Reform Party for that. It's over for you. We've already called it. As you can see, dated the 18th of December 2024, this was the scene yesterday evening. National security check, foreign policy check, UK politics check. The great Cardinal Andrew Fox probably agrees with me that Nigel Farage will be the UK Prime Minister sooner than most people think. We are coming. That's all we got time for this week's Warrior Creed live stream. We'll be back next Tuesday. And as always, we will publish the receipts for everything you've seen here today in tomorrow's Radical Dispatch, which is the written version of this stream. And we ask all of you who are free subscribers to the Radical Dispatch to become premium subscribers. If you're listening to the Warrior Creed on the audio, on the live stream, please go over to majidnawaz.substack.com, sign up there, become premium subscribers. It's with your support that we can do this work. Premium subscribers gain access to the entirety of the Radical Dispatch, not just the free parts, and also to this Warrior Creed podcast in video and audio format. We'll be back with you next week. For now, thank you for your patience. It's me, the Radical Majid Nawaz.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength. Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.